So I've been asked a few times about how I'm able to complete a Textbroker order inside of 20 minutes. Now that's kind of on average because the more words you have in an order, the longer it's going to take. But between the 400 to 700 word range, I'm able to do these inside 20 minutes quite easily. Of course, it wasn't always that way. It took me a long time to build up momentum for it, so I didn't come out of the gate swinging like that. I'm Michael with WriterSanctuary, and today I'm going to go over how I'm able to do Textbroker orders inside of 20 minutes, and then give you a few tips on how you can improve yourself. Now, when you're writing for any content mill, typing speed is going to matter. But to be successful, it goes way beyond just being able to type fast. Aside from being able to spell and having good grammar, there's quite a bit that rolls into success for writing AP style anything on Textbroker or any of the websites that are out there. Before we get started, if you can hit that like button, it'll help me out. And if you're not subscribed already, you can hit that button too. Okay, so here are the steps that I took when I first started writing on Textbroker and how I was able to start getting faster and faster as time went on. And as simple as it may sound, it's essentially the only thing I ever did. The first off is finding an order that isn't overly difficult. Keep in mind that instructions on Textbroker orders, the longer the description is, the longer it's going to take you to write. Because there are some clients out there that'll try to push you as far as humanly possible to get as much as they can for what they're paying. And unfortunately, you can get wrapped up into something that winds up paying you pennies per hour. So usually I'll go through and try to find something that's pretty basic, pretty easy, very clear on their instructions, so I don't have to second guess or send messages back and forth. So they're out there, you just have to look for them. And yeah, I'll go through about 5 or 6 before I find an order that seems right to me, at which I'll accept it and get going. The second thing I do is open this up a browser window. This is so that I can keep all the research on one screen while I'm typing on the other. Now this was before I had the second monitor, so I would have to go back and forth between Textbroker and whatever browser I was using for research. And sometimes I'd just go into Google and do a search on the key phrase that they want me to use and see if I can get some ideas if the client doesn't have some already, because sometimes they'll have you write specific things that they want in the article. So they'll have a topic idea, or they'll say, I need a list of things, but include this one as one of them. Those ones are kind of easy to write. You just have to come up with a listicle and just include one of their points. At which point I just go through and find a list of stuff like ways or things regarding the keyword. The third step would just be to write the article including the research. Now this is the biggest reason why I got the second monitor, is because I was bouncing back and forth between browser windows so often. With the second monitor, now I'm able to just look over at it and keep writing. But before, for like the first about a year or so, I had to go back and forth between browser windows, and it was a pain in the butt. There'd be times where I'd find some information on the article, go back to what I was writing, and then realize that I just forgot what the hell I just read, so I had to go back to the browser window, grab the information, go back to what I was writing, so a lot of back and forth. After a while, it said, that's enough of that, and I hooked up one of my older monitors to my computer for a second screen, tried to find a space on my desk, because at the time I was using a small little black desk from Walmart, and I was able to fit the monitor on there, and it worked great, and I've had dual monitor ever since. But back in the day, I had to go back and forth between browser windows. The fourth thing I do is after I'm done writing it, I would proofread it for spelling and grammar. Now, too many people will sit there with a fine-tooth comb and try to pick out every single possible thing. Now, that's good to an extent, because the longer you take proofreading, the longer it's going to take to submit the order. The longer it takes you to submit the order, the longer it's going to take for you to grab another one. And when you're writing for content mills, you want it to be as fast as possible to make as much money as you can throughout any 8-hour period. Well, I went through 8-hour periods, but you don't have to. But the point is still valid, because you want to keep as fast as you can so you can keep grabbing more orders and just keep cranking stuff out so you make enough money per day to justify being a writer. So I'd give the order a good proofreading, and back then I didn't have Grammarly or... See, Chrome kind of did a spell check, but it wasn't nearly as cool as it is now. So I went through it once or twice. And then the fifth step is just hit submit. For me, it was that easy. Now, not everybody's going to have such a great time writing it like I did. In the beginning, I didn't have such a great time writing it. It took a long time before I could find a groove for myself. Mostly because I was writing way too clinical. I was including way too advanced terminology. I was taking far too long per sentence, making sure everything was try to be as perfect as possible. And for the most part, it's not really all that needed. Don't get me wrong, you still want to do quality, but most clients on content mills just want something they can throw on their website. So you're not looking for New York Times bestsellers. They want something of quality that makes sense, that's comprehensible to their audience. And once you get down a certain groove for yourself, you can crank them out wicked fast. But yeah, that's the secret to my success. There really isn't a secret to it. I'm just really good at being able to glance through stuff on one website or one page and then go back to writing it and then just regurgitate it in my own words or come up with facts to make it unique. I tell you, not having that second monitor, that was such a pain in the ass. So I do have some tips that I would like to share to help you streamline your writing ability on content mills. First, practice makes perfect. Practice writing your own articles like you were the client on Textbroker. Give yourself a topic, find a good keyword for you to use, and even maybe submit it on sites like HubPages, Medium, or even vocal.media. But the more practice you get in on being able to do stuff like that, the more of a groove you start building. Like that's what I did in the very beginning. I would practice as often as I could, which is one of the reasons why I built, well, back then I had Forever Tablet and WriterSanctuary, and I practiced a little bit on my Computer Center's website before I revamped it and deleted everything. But if I wasn't writing for a content mill, I was writing for myself. So the chunk of time I blocked off throughout the day, I would spend either writing or practicing. It was always something that was working towards improving my skill. Second, start off with some topics that you're comfortable with. Unfortunately, this doesn't always work out that well because of the way how content mills are structured. The way content mills are structured is that if they don't have something in a category that you're specialized in, you want to keep yourself working. But if you start off with stuff that you're more comfortable with, you start getting into a good flow of it, then you start building up a skill set that you can take into other categories if you decide to expand. The point is that you want to get used to your own typing skills, flow of thought, and how you work. The third thing I can share with you is to pay close attention to your strengths and weaknesses. It's often difficult for someone to point out their faults, but if you want to improve, you need to learn. Like I know that when I first started, I admitted I had a very big problem with commas. And I would switch your and your and its and its. I mean, all the common apostrophe stuff. No one's perfect, and I still have a problem to this day. But once you can identify your strengths and weaknesses, you know what you need to work on. And one of my biggest weaknesses, and it's still kind of hindering me today, is not having a decent schedule to stick by. Now, right now, I have a good schedule going on, and I'm way more successful this last month because of it. But when your life is chaotic, it's really hard to sit down and get some good writing time in. Another tip I'd like to share is don't overcorrect yourself. If you're proofreading your work 10 to 12 times throughout the process, you're taking way too much time. Now, it's true, you want to offer quality work, but it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. But proofreading every sentence 10 or 12 times just to make sure it's perfect is just taking time away from you. So instead of 20 minutes for $7, you're taking 4 or 5 hours. And at that point, it's really not sustainable to be a freelance writer. And put away the thesaurus. You really don't need to include a lot of advanced terminology or very long words. The majority of people on the internet who read content read at an 8th grade reading level. So trying to be all fancy with it and sound like an IKEA manual isn't going to fly. A good way to make sure that you're not too advanced for your audience is to use the Flesh Reading E-score. Now there's a good one from webfx.com that I'll leave in the description down below, or you can use something like Yoast SEO on WordPress like I do. At either rate, no matter where you go, the Flesh Reading E-score, anything above 60 is good. Personally, I try to strive for anything over 70. That way I know everybody can read my stuff. And I found that clients really like it when it's easy to read. I mean, you don't want to write C-spot run articles, but you don't need to be college level. That is unless that's what the client's looking for. There's times you're going to be writing maybe medical instruction books or instruction manuals for networking equipment, stuff like that, where it's a little bit more advanced, then yeah, it's going to be much more advanced. But for a basic article, the majority of the content on Textbroker, you want to have a good reading score above 60 in the Flesh Reading. The next thing I'd like to share is realize that you're not in some kind of writing contest. You're not trying to win an award, and you're not trying to be on the New York Times bestseller list. Like I said earlier, clients just want good content that they can put on their website and be proud of. The next thing is to don't make it harder on yourself than it actually needs to be. Now, when you're first starting off, I get it, it's going to be kind of nerve-wracking because you don't want to lose a client, you want to demonstrate your skill, but you don't want to make it harder on yourself. This includes doing way too much proofreading or diving way too far into a topic when they just want something basic. I've seen writers do all kinds of stuff that just make it far more difficult to not be sustainable. Content mills are designed to crank out content over and over and over as quickly as possible. And you can make quite a bit of money as long as you're fast. But if you take steps to make things difficult on yourself, you're going to find that you're not going to be making very much money at all. This next tip comes from Diana. How she starts writing articles is that she writes it down without filtering herself and just starts writing. Just put down the facts and then write around it. I'll do something similar where I'll try to find facts on the internet, and I'll put those facts underneath what I'm writing just so that I remember what they are. Just skim through the research, try to find the facts that you want to add to the piece, make sure you're writing them down somewhere so you remember, and then build the content around it. Now, another thing that Diana does is that she will write most of the article, and then put the keywords in afterwards. It helps her keep an organic flow going, and it makes it sound like the keywords are correct. You want to keep the keywords in mind when you're writing, otherwise you're writing something completely different. But if you write most of the piece, then you can go back later and try to fit the keywords in where it's logical. And yes, there's clients out there that'll have long lists of phrases they want you to add to a piece. In fact, there was one that I had a long time ago where every sentence in the article had a keyword in it. That one took me a while to write because you have to fit it in where it makes sense and where it reads naturally. Otherwise, the client's going to dump you. But if you write most of the stuff out, it's easier to fit stuff in. So what are some of the things that you do to make writing easier for yourself on Textbroker? Leave in the comments down below. I know the very beginning of how I write articles inside 20 minutes is kind of plain and basic, but really that's all I ever did. I was just super fast and really good at what I do. I'd skim through an article as quickly as I could, grab the information I need, write the content, and just go. And after a while, you start being able to develop your own flow for everything, and you'll be able to write them as fast as I do. Just remember that it's not going to happen overnight, and it does take a lot of work to get to that point. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos about Textbroker, freelance writing, WordPress, or anything else I cover, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think that's going to do it for me today. I'll see you on Friday.